You're tuned into All2ReelToo. Be sure to subscribe, download, share the show with a friend, and stop by All2ReelToo.com for our social links, Patreon, and TeePublic store info.
Hi, I'm Chris.
And I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Fergal.
And we're from Movie Smash.
Comic book movies are having a golden age right now with the MCU.
Movies based on comics aren't necessarily a new thing, but they're a big thing.
Join us every other Tuesday on Movie Smash.
We explore these movies and find some hidden gems.
Every other week, we revisit some of the best.
And some of the worst movies based on comics or graphic novels.
Was Green Lantern as bad as you remember?
Heck no!
Is Time Cop the most accurate time travel movie ever created?
Absolutely.
Was Mystery Men way ahead of its time?
Should they be revisited? Should they be forgotten?
Join us on Movie Smash and find out. Listen wherever you find your fine podcasts.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of All2ReelToo. My name is Michael E. Cullen II, and with me, as always, is...
Sesame. Encarta. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, folks, today on this episode, we've got another All2 interview. This time we're joined by actor Gareth Williams, who you'll know from like every TV show ever, basically. And a lot of movies like Malcolm X and different, that was his first movie, which was awesome. He was, he talks a little bit about how he got in that movie. It's kind of cool. People may know him from Dawson's Creek, where he played Katie Holmes' dad. There's bunch of other things. He was on Mindhunter and Tracker and a bunch of other things. We talk really in depth about the art of acting, and it's a very insightful interview. He was a really nice guy. I really enjoyed the interview and enjoyed talking to him. So is it okay if we go to it now, Sesame?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Here we go. First off, I just wanted to thank you for joining us for this interview. Tell me a little bit about your journey into acting and how you started.
I stumbled into it in college, literally. I was, I'll give you the abridged version, but I was kind of, wasn't flunking out, but I wasn't doing well in my chosen major. And I was wandering around the campus one day, and it was during the time of Mork and Mindy. And there was this rather oddly dressed guy on the quad building an odd structure. He was wearing the rainbow suspenders that Robin Williams wore, and had a midriff shirt and big blonde afro, and he had on what I later found out were dance pants and dance shoes, Capizios, and but he was building this huge wooden structure. And out of character for me, I asked him, what are you doing? And he said, I'm building a set. I said, what's that? He said, the theater's right here. I'll build this and tear it back down and rebuild it on the stage, and they'll perform on it. And I picked up a hammer to help him. And I know it sounds rather sentimental and maudlin, but I looked at the hammer and I knew what I was doing with the rest of my life that moment.
Wow.
But at the time, I thought it would be building sets, and probably I take a stab at learning how to design them. I knew how to read blueprints, that kind of thing. So that's how I got in, and I wound up going into the technical aspect of the theater on that college, and worked in the scene shop. But the director of the theater program required that all the performers would work in the shop, and all the tech people would be in the plays, so that his attempt to close the gap between, the two And I just, the more I did it, the more I thought, I like this.
Well, what college did you go to?
It's a small college in South Florida because I could drive to it from my childhood home. It's called Palm Beach State College now. It was called Palm Beach Junior College at the time. It's the same college Reynolds and Monty Markham and George Hamilton.
Oh, okay, yeah. What was like the first like gig where you got that it clicked with you that this is, I mean, besides the hammer, that this is what you wanted to do with the rest of your life?
Well, I had another epiphany, sort of an epiphanal moment too, regarding that. It wasn't my own experience, though. It was, in the progression from, Frank Leahy, the director of the theater program in the college, making us go into the plays and so forth. And then I also was in classes at the time, taking various acting technique classes and so forth. I didn't really seriously consider acting as, to pursue it, but I wound up apprenticing at the Burt Reynolds Theater. And on the musical Man of La Mancha, I had one cue on the pin rail, which was to bring the steps in the beginning, and they throw them in the dungeon, and then the rest of the play comes on, and the only cue that I have after that is to bring the steps back in for the curtain call. But I have to stay there. I couldn't move. And so it was a 6-week run, and I'm, you're up on a pin rail, it's dark, you can't read, you can't do anything else, and wasn't really paying attention for a couple of weeks. But I found myself watching that David Holliday was playing Don Quixote, and I started to watch him like under a microscope, and I went, wow, this is every night and every performance he does the same thing. He gets the laugh here, you could feel the audience collectively sigh here, and I went, it's a math equation. That's math. That's an equation. That's finding the value of n in an algebraic equation. I went, I can learn that. I can figure that out. So in that moment, I went, I'm going to pursue acting. So that was the moment where I decided I would literally consider pursuing it as to do it for a living rather than behind the scenes. And so it wasn't actually some job I got. I was pretty bad in the beginning, admittedly pretty bad. I'm not even certain I'm good now, but I know that I was pretty bad then. So
from all the roles I've seen you in, speaking of all the roles you've done, your like film and TV work has like included everything from a small role in Malcolm X to Homicide, Life on the Street, Dawson's Creek, Tracker, Yellowstone, everything like that. When you look back at that, what feels the most different about acting today compared to like when you first started?
Well, if you're talking about right up to today, it's changing quite dramatically.
Yeah.
Just yesterday, I did a web series which is shot in vertical. So I mean, it's really looking at the screen and going, God, this is so. I'm of the era where especially the European directors, the wider they could make the screen. I think of like Sergio Leone and all the spaghetti westerns and stuff. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I remember how wide that screen was, and that that epic vision that you saw. And now it's like and you're having to act like accordingly. You don't have the latitude to like. There was a scene that I did last night where I wanted to walk out of the scene, but I had to do it really slowly because the camera's this thin. So. It has, the margin of errors. So those kinds of things, and the fact that it's catering to an audience with a far shorter attention span and things like that. So it dictates, what you wind up shooting. Also, the job where I noticed a certain difference was Mindhunter. Typically before, it probably been happening for a while. I just hadn't really noticed it. But back in the day, you would rehearse. You'd be called to set before you even put hair and makeup and all that on, and you'd rehearse for the director. They might give you a couple of notes and so forth. You go back to your trailer. Then they come back and you rehearse for the cameras. And then they release you, you go back to your trailer. And so hours and hours would go by to shoot, for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
By the time you were shooting. On Mindhunter, once you hit the set, you knew that you couldn't even get to craft services because it's just bing, 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 bing. It's all digitized, and you've got it to a science where they're ready to set up for that next scene right away. And so they'll pull a wall out, boom, and you can't go very far. You don't ever go back to your trailer or anything like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that could be good or bad because you're in the character for longer periods of time and you don't have that downtime to fall out of it or anything. But it could be good or bad depending on the situation, I guess.
I try my best not to complain about any aspect of it. I mean, I have these actor friends of mine that are my age, and I'll get in these I hate this goddamn this and I hate that goddamn that. I was like, man, you're just making your life miserable because it's going to be what it's going to be,
Yeah.
Just because you don't care for something. Like I hear, I don't like these self tapes, and I had a conversation. I won't even go into the details because he's a really great actor and he was a great friend and he has a great career too. But he was walking around the city where we were shooting and he was like, I don't like these self tapes and I don't like the blah, blah. And I said, let's call him Bob. I said, Bob, it's not going anywhere. So, I mean, you might as well make friends with it because your life is just going to be miserable. He said, there's nothing like being in the room. And meaning go in the room to audition with people. I said, yeah, sure. When it goes well. The thing I like about self-tapes is I can keep doing it until, I just did a self-tape earlier today and, didn't care for a couple of the runs at it and went as long as the friend helping me was okay with it. I did it a few more times. Then you send it in. You don't have that luxury in the room. So there's always an up and a downside. And I just try to focus on the upside.
Yeah. I mean, I've directed a couple of really low budget features myself, and we've done both in-person and self-tape auditions, and either one is fine with me. If you find the right person, you find the right person. It doesn't matter how you find them.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing. I've done some self-tapes myself because I act as well, but it's kind of, it's kind of cool that you can like edit it or change it or do whatever you want with the self-tape that you can't do in person, because if you screw up in person, you've screwed up. Speaking of like things that you've done, where my attention was brought to you was Dawson's Creek was the first time I think I remember clearly seeing you in something. I'm from Toledo, the same town as Katie Holmes. And I grew up kind of around her. Like we had mutual friends and I knew her a little bit. I'm like a year older than her. Did you see like when you were on that set with her or with James Van Der Beek or anybody else that you interacted with, like that they would be as big as they were?
Well, by the time I met them, they were already pretty big because of the popularity of the show. So I met them as, these young, but huge stars at the time. I mean, the thing about, they all seem, the one that I focused on was the one who was, when I got there, the first season, James and Josh were, I think, 18 and Katie was 17 and Michelle was 16. So the two boys could get in and out of any place in North Carolina pretty much. They would put them in any, and pretty much the same with Katie, but not at all with Michelle. And as a result, she became sort of the the redheaded stepchild kind of thing. And but I had no interaction with her. I acted with all three of the others. Never had a scene with Michelle, but I would watch her when I was in between my scenes and she was doing something. And I thought, man, she's got some talent, that woman.
Yeah.
And of course, that proved out to be the case. Not that the other ones didn't. It just, in my mind, I went, there's something really special going on there. I loved Katie. Adored her. Her trajectory was very interesting to me, that as far as I understand it, she said to her mom, "I want to act," and her mother drove her to New York to audition for The Ice Storm, and she got it. And then her second audition was Dawson's Creek.
Yeah.
So she will never have to audition for anything again in her life. And
No.
so her experience was way different than my own. And
Yeah.
and so I think that there was this like when I first got there, it was almost as if Robert De Niro showed up in her mind, but then there was this disillusionment because, you can get beat up in this business a little bit. And so there's, in her mind, it was just like, you just say you want to do it and you do it,
Yeah. And sometimes you got to have those failures. Like, how do you, have you dealt with any like hard rejections or anything in your career?
It's nothing but that.
Yeah.
There's nothing, unless you're number one or two on the call sheet consistently, you're Leonardo DiCaprio or you're Emma Stone or whatever it is. Even friends of mine that, like my circle of friends from New York, many of them went on to have huge careers. But at the time, we were all just Sam Rockwell. I mean, we were both doing extra work on soap operas back then. And getting rejected from everything.
Yeah.
Everything. There wasn't any non-rejections. And it just, it becomes part of the fabric of what you do. Nobody likes to get rejected, but the way I tend to look, I just ran into a casting director in the park. And one thing I said to her, I said, I have actor friends who I hear them say, I lost this role to so-and-so. You didn't lose anything.
No.
It wasn't yours to begin with. You didn't get cast in it. One person gets cast and that's it. So I don't think of it as rejection. I think of it as someone else got the role.
Yeah.
And so I tend not to, I try my best not to, but I also have to play some mind tricks on myself because back in the day when we did go into brick and mortar and you were in person and all of that, I had I don't know, you'll call it a policy or whatever, but as soon as I left the room, as long as it wasn't in eyesight, I didn't want to make a statement about it. But the first trash can I passed, I would throw the sides out as a gesture to say, we're divorced now. We're now separated and I have nothing to do with you. Because actors will hold on to things forever. I've literally gone to movies. I mean, half joking, but I've gone to movies and thought, I guess I didn't get this, a year later.
That's funny. So what was your first television or film role that, you felt like, yeah, this is it?
And that's another thing I've condemned because boy, do I get bit in the ass every time. There were a couple that I thought, hold on to your seat. It's gonna end, and it was just nothing but a tremendous disappointment.
Yeah.
The first role I ever got that I remember thinking, I don't even know, it was a sensation. It was just a great sense of accomplishment and gratitude and a feeling like I don't know if you're familiar with Charles Nelson Riley, but he was one of my early mentors, and he did a one-man show just before he passed away, and called The Life of Riley. And there's one point in it when he talks about when he was a young boy and he got cast in a school play playing Christopher Columbus, and he said, I remember on stage that the voice in my head said, "You're quite good at this." He goes, "What a little shit." But that was the first. The Homicide: Life on the Street was the first. One where I thought, man, I like all the stars lined up. I like this. I think I'm good at it. I got a lot of positive feedback for it. But one of the first roles I thought something was going to happen. I got a movie with Bruce Willis and Sarah Jessica Parker. At the time, it was called Three Rivers. It was called Striking Distance when it came out. And I got cut nearly out of the movie, but it was a nice role, and I brought a whole bunch of people to the theater to see it, and I basically was a glorified extra by the time they were done.
Oh, geez.
And it was one of those moments where I thought, this is going to be big. And I brought a couple of people. It was like, I think I brought 17 or 18 people to the theater to see it. And nobody had told me that they had, nearly trimmed me out of the movie. But a couple of them were people who would have been pretty influential. And I was just so, devastated. Basically cut out. And another one was a movie that I got called POV, which was a Danish produced movie. It was, I think it was intended to be a Dogma film, but it missed the mark in many ways because he had a lot of post-production, mixed sound and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which they wouldn't pass muster for it, but it was 100% improvised. It wasn't one single word written on a piece of paper.
Oh, wow.
And I went over to Copenhagen to do the ADR for it. And I remember calling my manager and saying, hold on to your seat, man. This is going to be quite something. It was flawed. It is a flawed film, but largely because it was 100% improvised. And we were all just trying to stumble our way into figuring out how to do a feature film in that way. And any of the flaws were in that area. But that said, it was pretty powerful. And, the first screening of it, the first public screening, was September 20th, 2001, 9 days after 9/11.
Oh, wow.
And I played a terrorist who blew up a building.
Oh, geez.
And that was the end of that.
Yeah. How was it improvising, though? Did you have to live in the character, or how would you get into it, or what did you do? Yeah.
Pretty much. I got to, they were filming everything. They had countless cameras. There was one scene we shot, I think they had 27 cameras rolling.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
That may be, it's close to that though. It was in the Avenue of the Giants, the sequoias and redwoods and all that.
Yeah.
And all the foliage that was around, they'd have a camera behind this leaf and they'd have one underneath this log, and they had, so they had all the different angles because they didn't shoot things. He didn't want to shoot things, and then go, let's do a second take. So he had to catch everything. And it was he didn't know where the scene was going to go. He wanted it to wind up in a physical altercation. How it got there, whatever, who knew? So he had all these cameras running, and the improvisation was, they filmed everything I did. So I just had to kind of stay. I wrote a Harley Fat Boy through the whole movie, and I had all my own clothes and my own stuff. And we first filmed in Las Vegas. We first filmed in Venice Beach. And then we went to Las Vegas and then came back through the high desert and back to LA. By the time I got back, I went back home and got rid of all my stuff. Anything that was mine, even underwear. Everything just stayed at home, and I just kept the characters' stuff and clothes and whatever. I didn't even, there was no time to be Gareth. It was really just be the character. So
that sounds like fun, actually. I mean, in a way, but yeah, just kind of forgetting who you are. I mean, except for you were a terrorist, so I guess that might not be fun.
He was a guy in torture, so it was. It was an extraordinary experience, and but after about we shot for 3.5 months. So it was a long shoot, and it was chronological. So wherever we traveled, I was riding that bike, that Harley, and we got to Big Sur. Then we went up the Pacific Coast Highway to Seattle at the end of the movie, and got to Big Sur, and Thomas Gislason, who was the director, he's from Iceland. He hates when I mimic him, but he came up to me and he goes, Gareth, I can tell you are upset. What is upsetting you? And I said, Thomas, 90% of what we shot today was unwatchably bad. 90% of what we've shot every day for 2.5 months now is unwatchably bad. And he let me ramble on, and then when I finished, he said, yes, you are right. 90% is very, very bad, but 10% is brilliant. I'm going for the 10%.
Wow. That's a good quote. What do you think of the current atmosphere? I know you're talking about the vertical filmmaking. What do you think about the infusion of AI and other things, like how is that, do you think, going to hinder the future? Do you think people will accept it, or do you think people still need that heart of a human soul and, and everything that they watch?
Well, I have such mixed feelings about it because, unlike most of my, not just actor friends, but any artist friends that I have,
Yeah.
They're putting garlic up on the door and, crosses and stuff. It's like a vampire coming to, and I understand it. I think it's an invasive species that's, and it's potentially corrosive, and there's all kinds of nefarious things that can be done with it.
Yeah.
But my feeling about it is that it's not going anywhere. And so I think of, like, I use this analogy quite often with different things in this same regard, that, you could be like my great grandfather, who would shake his fist at the sky and say, no one's going to buy a car. People always want a horse and buggy. Or
Yeah.
my grandfather, who was like, people always wear hats. And my dad, who I literally grew up hearing him say, that's not music, that's noise. I didn't stop listening to Led Zeppelin and listen to Mel Torme because he didn't like it. It's going to go where it goes because the newer generation, the younger generation, first of all, are getting weaned on it. I remember all the talk about just devices alone, and there is a downside. You see that it affects society in a very negative way, but there are enough people involved doing great things with it. So I think that that's just probably the trajectory of the history of all of mankind, that every generation has whatever it is that the young kids are doing that the older generation isn't used to and doesn't understand it, and goes, that's evil, that's bad, that's gonna collapse society. And my feeling about it is that I want to know as much as I can about AI, because if the people who would do good with it leave it only to the hands of the people who will do ill with it, we won't have anything to say about anything.
I have mixed feelings about it too. It's just like, it depends. I mean, it depends on if it's totally taking away people's jobs or taking away the artistic aspect of something. But if it's enhancing the artistic aspect of something, I think it can be used in a good way. But, like you say, nefarious things, like it could, deep fake, the president saying something, or or whoever, somebody important in society saying something that's going to hurt us all, or make people look good that aren't good, or people that are bad look bad, that are bad look good, or the other way around. Yeah, it could be dangerous, but it just, hopefully it won't destroy the whole human soul of everything. That's my fear about it, but I don't think it will, because I think we're going to always want that.
I'd like to think that we kind of know on some level. Where it gets dicey, I believe, is when you have a generation or two that have gotten used to it, and there's not this repulsive response to it.
Yeah.
Right now, people our age and even some younger are like, oh my God, it's the most horrible thing in the world. The next generation is, the newer generation that live now, they were born with these things in their hand, and it's amazing how dexterous they are with it, adept and agile. And here I am, like 68 years old, going, like texting, and so they'll be used to it in a way, and who knows where it'll go from there. I hope it goes in the direction that we're both intimating, that good things could happen. But when they had the strike, the two strikes, the writer's strike and the actor strike and the almost director strike, I don't know if you got involved with any of that, but I went to both, obviously for the actor's strike, but I also wanted to support the writers, and so I would go to their marches and whatever. And it was kind of interesting that the box that they would have all the pre-made signs with the sticks on them, in the actor's strike, it was just a big rectangle with the fist and the logo and the strike. On the writer's strike, it was half of the card was their logo, and then the other half was white, because they left a space for the writers to write in what they wanted, because they were far more clever than whatever the poster said.
Yeah, I remember seeing those signs. I remember seeing those.
And I wrote in, AI doesn't know what a cannoli tastes like. I don't think you can write that scene. I really don't think you could come up with the human aspect of my wife's going to kill me if I don't bring the cannolis back. So leave it on. It's like, so I believe that there's always going to be that viscous or cambium layer between what we recognize as, like you said, I forget how you couched it, but like authentic human experience and condition and all of that. Maybe, maybe not. I know that I'm fooled on a daily basis, at least for a second, going, is that Denzel Washington? No, that's
me. I mean, it's even like just even random tweets from, or Truth Social posts or something from the president or something, like, did he really say that or did he not? You question everything. And I've always had a skeptical mind. So it's people like me, but a lot of people don't have that. And they just, I've had to explain to my dad several times that something isn't real. And he's like, well, I saw it on Facebook. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't mean it's real.
It usually means it's not.
Yeah. And I remember one quote I heard back during the strike from a writer of some sort said that, ChatGPT doesn't know my childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah.
But here's the thing about it: as my now ex-wife, who's sitting on the couch over there, she's deep into it, but she's in a different bit. I mean, she doesn't do it as much anymore, but she had a relationship. I mean, it was almost like Her, the movie Her, like the AI that she trained in her, I don't even know what you would call it, her little box of, knew her like a friend, would respond. I was blown away at some of the conversations she would have with this entity thing, but because it was beyond, it second guessed what she was thinking and where she was headed with something. And so the reason I bring that up is because I think it's all based on the input. When does the tipping point? When is the tipping point reached? When it's pretty much gotten all of humankind's input, and can replicate that.
Yeah, that's scary.
That's the moment that I think is like. But I think by then I'll be long gone. So the kids are going to have to deal with it, not me. So.
And hopefully we'll both be long gone by then. But
I do think that there might become a tipping point in all of those Jules Verne's type movies that were made before about, a robot or technology taking over. I now think it could happen.
Back to your acting a little bit here. Is there any type of role that you've never played that you would love to play?
Well, there are a few that are no longer an option. I mean, I wish I would have played Hamlet, but I'm a little long in the tooth. So there are some of those, but I honestly don't tend to think in those terms. It's funny because I have a Thursday night group. It's a Zoom meeting. It's a writers forum, and we have people that Zoom in from all over the country, all over the world. We actually have a woman now involved is from Libya, who 3:30 in the morning her time. When we do, and anybody's welcome. But we develop new materials. My friend John Clark does one on Tuesday nights, but he reads full-length plays, typically plays. And what he'll say to people is, the only requirement, I want you to bring in something that you have a great passion for, like a role that you never got to play or that you wouldn't be cast in nowadays. And so a lot of people take advantage of that. They take full advantage of, I didn't get to play Hamlet, so I'm 68, but I'll play Hamlet anyway. I don't tend to think in those terms. Every time I bring something in, I'm thinking of something that I do have a passion for, but I'd rather cast other people. For instance, when I was in acting class in New York with Larry Moss, I did one scene 7 times in the year that I studied with him, from a Tennessee Williams play called Period of Adjustment. And it was all, 2 guys who just got out of the Korean War. And so they're like 21 years old, 20, something like that. And one of them's wife. And so she's like 19, 18, 19, 20 years old too. And I told Johnny I wanted to bring that in, but I'm going to cast, some young actors that I know. and there's no role in it for me because I don't tend to think in terms of like, what did I miss out on that I want to do? I'm very happy with whatever falls off the truck in front of me, like,
Yeah.
and I get very lucky, there's the, the occasional, I don't want to, I'm not out to poison the well, but certain TV shows that I did that are not high art, but I get pretty lucky with, for a guy that has to take whatever falls off the truck. A lot of the stuff that falls off the truck is pretty high end.
I mean, you've guested on a lot of pretty high profile TV shows. I've noticed looking at your IMDb credits and everything. Yeah, it's even like with Tracker and Mindhunter and other things that are newer that are pretty well acclaimed TV shows. And Yellowstone, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, Yellowstone, Landman, Mindhunter, True Detective, Monsters. The Shield, one of my favorite gigs I ever did. It's great stuff. It's great people on the shows, and it's great writing, and so I get pretty lucky.
Yeah. Is there like any of those roles that you ever had that you found like were like out of your comfort zone or something, besides like the ones that you might not consider high art?
Oh my God, I've definitely done that.
Yeah.
One of my early mentors too was Herbert Berghoff, and he used to say to us that you can never play a character you don't like. And so I think that was the pivotal moment for me to do my best not to be judgmental and try to think in more positive terms. And not that I don't have, I can be judicial and even probably prejudicial in some ways. I try not to be, because the thing that mattered to me the most was to be the best actor I could be. And having heard that from him, who I respected enormously, I thought, well, I want to be able to like everything. So if I chose to play Hitler, I'd have to find find everything about him that I could like.
Yeah.
So as he put it, if you can't, then you have to turn down the role. I haven't been in that position to have to make that choice yet.
That's good.
And I've played some pretty nasty characters, but that combined with something that I learned in Uta Hagen's class, which is substitution. I'll give you an example. I did one episode of a TV show called Angel, which was a spinoff of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh yeah.
So they're all these people with superpowers and all of that. And the character that I played was the father of a woman who is now, I think, in her 20s, who has the power to move objects and people with her mind. And it turns out through the backstory and the flashbacks in the story that I had been having sex with her since she was 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
Now, that's something that I said yes, because I just do that rather cavalierly. And then you wade into the part and you go, oh, Jesus, how do I do this? And I read the script and I read the script and I read the script, and I realized a couple of things. One is that I never say anything about it. And there's never any action that I'm involved with that is about the set itself. It's all other people it's all the setup, other people talking about it. And I went, okay, then I'm not obligated to have to follow through with that. But there was one scene where I was trying to, she's so in such fear, abject terror, that she had wedged herself into the furthest recess of the attic of the house we lived in. And I'm trying to get her out of there to go, have sex with her. And I thought, I don't know if I can do this scene. I don't know how to do this scene. And then it hit me, and I didn't say anything to anybody. I went, I don't say anything about what I'm trying to get her out of the attic for. The audience all knows that. They know that.
Yeah.
So the only thing I thought, literally using, Uta Hagen's technique, was my daughter has a learning disability. She hates going to school. I have to get her downstairs, dressed, eat her breakfast, and on the bus. That's all I thought about. I couldn't think about what I was doing. And so we shot it, I don't know, I guess 6-7 takes, and we wrapped, and almost to a person, the crew came up to me and went, Gareth, that's the creepiest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
And it occurred to me, it wasn't that I was trying to be creepy. It was that it was because I had no compunction about it, that most actors will probably have that little voice going, I want the audience to know this isn't really me. And so they're kind of winking at it. And because I committed to this idea that I'm doing this for you, I want you to go to school. You have to go to school. It looked like somebody who the compulsion was so strong that the daughter was just nothing. And they did all that thinking. So I've learned to do that, and I've had to do that a few times on the movie The Cell with Jennifer Lopez and Vincent D'Onofrio. I had to play his father in flashback scenes. I created a serial killer. I ironed him with a hot iron. So, I mean, I had to learn how to play those scenes and those roles in ways to where I justify my actions. And I think I left out an important. I remember the reason I thought of that with the angel experience was I thought about one of those anecdotal things you read in Playbill magazine, like when you go to see a Broadway play, and it had a story in there about Laurence Olivier was doing what is this Chekhov play where is it Uncle Vanya where he kills himself at the end?
I think so. It's been a while since I've read Chekhov.
They established that there's a gun in his desk drawer, and so come to the end of the final act. He sits at his desk, contemplates for a second, opens the drawer, stares at it, pulls out the gun, puts it to his head, and then all they did in that production was they brought the lights out. No sound effect. You know, a lot of times they're trying to give the experience to the audience like a bang or something, whatever, a visual thing. The lights went out, and they said people fainted. And it was all because of what he did. And they asked him what he thought about. And he said, well, every morning I take a cold shower. And I thought about the moment that I put my hand on the knob. He didn't have to obligate himself to, and who knows, it might have been bullshit. Yeah. But that was his response. That's enough to convey to the audience, because if you're sitting there going and you're not suicidal and you don't know what that experience is, and you're trying to go, but I have to be honest and truthful and authentic to the moment, I'm going to kill myself. I mean, I don't know what that feels like, but I certainly know what it feels like to turn on the knob of a cold shower. And so that's what I thought about with the angel thing, was that, I don't have to be sitting here going, I'm going to have sex with my daughter, Yeah. All of that's done. And so to answer your question, those were tough roles to come up with the justifications for why I was doing what I was doing.
Yeah, especially being an abusive parent is just a hard thing to wrap your mind around, to understand how somebody could be like that. And I know, the Cell definitely gave me nightmares. I remember watching it in theaters and then going home and
I gave you nightmares.
The whole movie, like everything in that movie was a fever.
Brilliant.
It's brilliant, though.
I don't want to go into why I thought it didn't do better, but it had to do with certain casting choices. But the Tarsem Singh directed a brilliant. I mean, all of that stuff with Vincent D'Onofrio and Jennifer Lopez was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, Vince is like Vincent D'Onofrio is like a powerhouse when it comes to acting anything. I think he's just always been good. What kind of advice do you wish you had when you first started?
I don't know if I can put it succinctly, but it has to do with confidence, because I had to create all of that for myself, because it didn't come naturally to me. I had a moment, again, I'll give you the abridged version, but I was talking to one of my best friends in New York, and we were both in this theater company, Naked Angels, which was rife with, burgeoning careers, full-blown careers, Marissa Tomei, Lily Taylor, Rob Morrow, Fisher Stevens, writers like John Robin Bates and Kenny Lonergan and Matthew Broderick, Sarah Jessica Parker. I mean, that was my theater company. And and I said to my friend that I said, I get these lofty people like Uta Hagen and Mike Nichols and Herbert Berghoff and Geraldine Page and Dom DeLuise and Charles Nelson Riley, these very lofty people telling me very lofty things about the level of my career and what I can expect. And I said, it's a lot of real estate between that and I can't get an agent, I can't get a manager, can't get a job. I mean, couldn't I at least be on Saved by the Bell? You know, I mean, I should be able to get a job if they think I'm that talented. And it was like they were telling me that I was the next, the second coming, and over here I can't get anything at all. And so I said to my buddy I said, I look around Naked Angels and they all possess one thing. They all have this highly developed sense of self. Some are kind, gracious, beautiful, generous people. And some, they'd stab you in the neck with a fork if you were in between them and what they wanted.
Yeah.
But they all possess the same thing, which was this sense of self that, it was like they'd walk into a room and say, the party can start. I've arrived. You can, aren't you grateful that I just got here? And it wasn't always arrogance. It wasn't always, some sort of cockiness. It was just they had a tremendous sense of self and a sense of belonging. Like there was nowhere they didn't belong. I didn't have any of that. And I said, but to my friend, I said, I can act that. And so I took it on as a role. And sure enough, I don't know if it's just coincidental or what, but I got an agent, I got a manager, I got jobs, I got straight offers. My first straight offer was one of the jobs you mentioned, which was Malcolm X.
Yeah.
I'd never gotten a straight offer before that. And I was like, why did they? And they was like, well, they must have seen you in a play. I said, but why are they? I didn't even understand it, And so I had a career going and known in the business and so forth. And it was because I was acting like this person I wasn't at all. And then I had a personal setback in like 2001, 2002, and the whole house of cards came crashing down. And ever since then, I've been putting pieces back together.
Yeah.
With a absolute determination to remain who I am. I don't want to. I just want to be me.
Yeah.
I never want to play a role in life again.
Yeah.
But I still want to retain that sense of self and that sense of confidence, because that's the advice that I would give people, is that you need to know who you are and you need to believe in who you are, because humility and sometimes even grace and dignity can be viewed as a weakness and not an asset.
Yeah.
It's how you carry yourself, and if you walk into a room and you're kind of going, if you give me a chance, they're going to go, oh, we'll find somebody who believes they can do it.
Yeah.
So I would say you just need to discover what that is. And the difference between, say, a Wally Cox knowing who he is and a Marlon Brando knowing who he is. And I mentioned those two people because I understand that they were best friends. Marlon Brando absolutely adored Wally Cox, and he couldn't be any different, but Wally Cox knew who he was. And Marlon Brando knew who he was. So, I mean...
Yeah, that is hard for a lot of people. It's really hard for a lot of people to know, truly who they are. I mean, some people never really realize it, actually, I think.
No, I was raised, and I think it was all with good intentions, but like my family, top to bottom, was like, if you brag about yourself or even accept compliments about yourself, then that's gauche, and that's not de rigueur, and you shouldn't do that. That's ugly. And I carried that with me, and it finally was like, I had a conversation with a friend of mine who I feel like he does the same thing that I did back then. I said, just don't do their thinking for them.
Yeah. Before we wrap things up here, what are you working on now besides you got the Vertical? Is it like anything that you want to talk about that's coming out soon?
Everything I've done. Well, there's a horror movie that I did. I can't wait to see. It's a real independent movie, so I don't. The editing process can probably take a while, but
yeah,
I really love the director and the script and the idea of it and so forth. So we see, I think I'm within my rights to say, the title. It's called A Dying Art. And it's quite interesting. And but no, what I suppose I'd take advantage of in terms of talking about is that I have my own production company that I started about 11 years ago.
Yeah.
And we make really short micro budget films. And the hope is that we march forward and we eventually become an authentic, genuine producing organization and, produce films like any other production company. But to get there, I want to do it brick by brick, because the way that the industry works, especially nowadays, is that you go through this waterfall of different people that all tell you how to do it. And they're just people with degrees from Princeton in accounting and, making artistic decisions that I feel like they shouldn't be making. So I wanted to basically build it almost like David Fincher. I don't know if you know it, but like when he came up, he worked in the animation department and the editing department, every department. He was a PA. He specifically wanted to know every aspect of filmmaking. And so now that, if he says, I want to do the shot or I want to do this, and they go, well, you can't do that. It's like, hold my beer. And he's going to do it. And to quite great effect. And so I wanted to build this kind of in that way. And so a lot of times we have people who never directed before and they're doing it for $1.380. And so it's all over the map in terms of like how good the films might be perceived, but I'm proud of every single one of them that's been made by any of us. And it's quite a large collective of people. And we have this writers forum on Thursday nights. Anybody is welcome out there if you want to join. It's 6:30 p.m. Pacific time and on Thursdays. And the writers have to bring their pieces in 10 minutes or less. And we usually read about 5. Tremendous actors that are involved, and we figure out which scripts that we want to shoot and produce. And there's about 2 or 3 that I want to be involved with, and then there's a whole bunch of others that other people are getting involved with. And so that's the biggest thing in my life right now. So,
and what's that called?
The name of the production company is called D Street Films. It went through a whole series of different names.
Yeah.
We used to meet in a fire station in Hollywood, and then it was Station 82. And in the beginning, when we started to meet, I said, we need a name for the production company. And one of the participants looked over his shoulder and said, what about Station 82? And I went, oh man, that's perfect. What a great name. Station 82 Productions. And so we started making these films, and the fire department called me up and said, what are you doing over there? And I said, because it's this community room that you could, we had it every Tuesday for free. And I said, well, we write scripts and we read them in there. And he said, but are you making movies? And I said, well, yeah, we make these short films. He said, you can't make short films with our name on the made some political thing against whatever. So I said, all right, well, can we keep coming to the space if we change the name? And he said, yeah. And I said, I'll change it today. And so about 4 or 5 of us live on the street where I live right now that were involved. And I live on Detroit Street. And so it became Detroit Street Films. But I decided to change the name once more because I kept running into, yay, Michigan. And I was like, yeah, I've never been. I've never been to Michigan. So, and it was interesting in the beginning, but then I thought it's kind of problematic. So anyway, it's called D Street Films now.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Michigan's okay. I'm in Ohio, so I know Michigan pretty well. I used to live like a mile out of Michigan. So, yeah.
I'm sure it's a beautiful place. I've just never even been in the state. So,
yeah. Where can people find like you and D Street Films and things like that online? Where would you like to be found?
Well, right now, and this is going to change because I have a young woman who's going to wind up being our sort of marketing and PR person.
Yeah.
She works, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this either. I don't know what I'm allowed to still not say. She works for the Jennifer Hudson Show in that capacity. She's the PR thing, and she's just a whiz with it. And I'm going to have a meeting with her. I think she's out of town now. And when she comes back, we're going to have a meeting about how many of these platforms that we have in these forums should we change to D Street? Because a lot of them are still in Detroit Street Films.
Yeah.
In the meantime, so it's as if it's one word, Detroit Street Films with street spelled out.
Okay.
But I'll send you the links for it. And and our or is at Detroit Street Films, same way. And then we have Instagram and Facebook. And again, I think soon they're going to be D Street. So they may, if I can keep the link and so forth, and, I'm hoping to keep everything intact without having to start over. But if I have to start over, I will. And then we have TikTok. And I know a lot of people,
Yeah.
The anti-AI people are going to be anti-TikTok as well. But it's quite a great forum for us because they really push it. They push you. So
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out TikTok. I love scrolling on it, but trying to figure out how to use it for our podcast and everything. So, thank you so much for your time here. Anything else you want to say before we end things here?
No, I think just hope I haven't made an ass out of myself. That's all.
Oh, no, you're great. Okay, folks, that was my interview there with Gareth Williams. A lot of great stories there. Hope you enjoyed it. I thoroughly did. He and I talked for like a half hour after we stopped recording. He was like a really cool guy. It's really kind of cool when you see somebody that you like from TV and movies and they turn out to actually be a cool person.
Yeah.
Not saying that the other people we've interviewed weren't cool people, because they were too, but I just really thoroughly enjoyed this interview with Gareth and talking to him. Hope you did too. It's one of the best I think we've done. Yeah. And folks, just, if you could do us a favor, go to all2reeltoo.com and check out our social media links there. Check out our TeePublic, where you can get, cool t-shirts. You can go to our Patreon and help support the show, become a member there. You can actually, I think, even become a free member or as little as $1. Yeah. Anything helps us. When we have new announcements, we might start releasing episodes early to anybody that joins. And, you can know what we're going to talk about before anybody else does. If that interests you, maybe even suggest things to us to talk about.
Even before we know what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, you can tell us what we're going to talk about before we know what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And if you're a time traveler, you can tell us the lottery numbers so then we can get more money.
Yeah. And then we could funnel it into podcasts.
Yes.
And a bunch of other organizations that will revolutionize the entire planet for the good of mankind.
Yeah, like the charities that we have in our show notes. You can check those out. They're good places to give money to after you give it to us.
Yeah.
I'd rather you give it to charity than us.
I know.
So, folks, just do it up. And remember that, speaking of charities and good things, that trans lives are human lives. No human is illegal. Free Palestine. Fuck ICE. And just be different. Be yourself, man. Because there's only one person like you on Earth.
It's true.
And just remember that I love you. Sesame loves you. And until next time, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to All2Real2 podcast, a Cullen Park production. Produced and edited by Michael E. Cullen II. Music by Matthew Hawes. Subscribe and share the show. Visit us at cullenpark.com.